And we put him in the letter now. And he will be fed up. Honorable Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio, Honorable Minister of State, Senator Omotayo Alasho Adura, Presidential Communication Team, other distinguished delegation from the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, MD, NDDC, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone here to this briefing. We started some time ago, and this is a forum that heads of government and heads of sensitive government institutions are becoming to enlighten Nigerians about what government is doing. This morning, the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs will speak with us. As a way of introduction, let me tell us that we know that the construction of a durable infrastructure for Nigeria and creation of an enabling environment, especially in the Niger Delta region, has been a focus of the President Muhammadu Buhari administration. As the President often says, there cannot be any development in the field of insecurity. Government of the day has just put in a lot of efforts to ensure that peace and stability reign in the Niger Delta. And as the peace and stability are sustained, the administration has ensured that it's complemented by infrastructural development. And key among this is projects that the government is working on, especially the very famous East-West Road, which traverses the Niger Delta region. Since 2006, when the road was initiated, when the project was initiated, successive administrations have promised its completion as a campaign slogan. Recent media reports have also quoted the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs as assuring that the project will be completed by the end of next year, 2022. It was not the time such timelines will be set under previous administrations. But given the Buhari Infrastructure Revolution that has breathed life and facilitated the completion of moribund projects, the Honorable Minister, Senator Godswill Akpabio, he said this morning, to enlighten Nigerians on how the Buhari touch will bring this project to a happy ending. Therefore, there's a need to brief the media and the general public on some of other key projects along the East-West Road being executed by the federal government in order to provide an enabling environment for businesses to thrive and support key commercial activities. The Honorable Minister is there, as I said, with the Minister of State, his directors. I'm sure the chairman of the PCT will acknowledge them at the end of this event. But he's there with his directors as well as the MD of the interim MD of the NDDC. On this note, let me not take much of our time. Let me invite the Honorable Minister to brief us as usual for about 30 minutes, and afterwards, he will take questions from us. Honorable Minister, sir, you have the floor.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Minister of State for Niger Delta, my brother Tayo Alachadura, the Permanent Secretary, Dr. Buhari Ado, the Senior Special Assistants to the President, my brother Shino, Joe Garba, and also the Senior Special Assistant in the Office of the Vice President, and that of the Chief of Staff, directors, interim administrator, and the organizers of this occasion, my sister Oge, ladies and gentlemen. I couldn't see you because of the first mask. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, let me say that this platform is a very laudable one to enable us as servants of the people under President Muhammadu Buhari to tell the story of the revolution going on in infrastructure, in the social services, in education, and other areas for the benefit of Nigerians. Many Nigerians are already aware, but this one is for the doubting Thomases, those who insist on seeing the side of Jesus where the spear entered. They want to put their hands inside. That is why this platform is a very good one. And for us in the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, we feel very privileged because there's always this feeling that the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs is all about NDDC. And that answer is totally no. The President is touching lives through the ministry in various ways in different areas of social amenities. But of course, mostly overshadowed by the good news or bad news or middle news that come from the Niger Delta Development Commission. The Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs was created about 2008, of course, to address part of the infrastructure deficits, environmental degradation and pollution, and other sundry issues confronting the oil-rich Niger Delta region. I will go to the main points because it's been in existence from 2008, and a lot of things have been going on. But I'm sure the point of interest for Nigerians today will be the East-West route, like he mentioned. The East-West route was started in 2006. The project happens to be a dual carriageway that spans a total of 338 kilometers with about 41 numbered bridges. People are not aware. 41 numbered bridges. Of course, when we inherited the project, there was a lull of about 4 years. And then the project was part of what they call the PIDF, Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund projects, under the Sovereign Wealth Fund. But there was a slight problem. The issue was, what do we do? Are we going to treat it as a greenfield project where we provide toll gates to recover the monies, or are we going to treat it as a brownfield project? In reality, when I took over office as the minister with my colleague, the Minister of State, August 21st, 2019, the project had gone very far, over 80%. So what was left was not so much, and therefore it couldn't have been a greenfield project where we go for commercialization instead of providing social amenities. And so there was that problem of going into a contract on how to recoup the money. But the federal government had already spent a lot of money before that time. So what was left to complete the project was not such that should have caused the 4-year delay, but it did. So the historical debt we also inherited, we were able to clear about 11 billion in 2019, which we owed to contractors on the East-West Road. And this came from the magnanimity of Mr. President when he, on my application, he returned the East-West Road back to the Ministry of Niger Delta. And thereafter, we have had various sums of monies released. We mobilized the contractors aside. People from the Mbiama area, Kayama and others are quite excited with the amount of work going on. But we had a slight problem. Eleme Junction on the area. When the project was conceptualized in 2006, it was not included in the original contract, almost 15 kilometers. Because at that time, that area was in good shape. the road was dualized, the two bridges were functional. I think they started to notice serious wear and tear in 2014. So there was a contract that went to the Federal Executive Council, but no mobilization was paid. So under this administration, by last year, Mr. President approved that we should move into the East-West Road. So we're able to release the sum of 4.9 billion to RCC as first mobilization for that Element Junction. But they ran into a problem. The bridge on the right-hand side near to Indorama had collapsed. That area has not less than 5,000 trucks in an hour, coming from One Port, coming from the fertilizer plant, coming from the depot, the main depot. Of course, we are talking about serious load that caused wear and tear. And one of the bridges had already gone in. So there was a need for a reassessment. And we said, okay, the original design should have passed through an area at Element side. But unfortunately, the Ministry of Power had gone there to build a major substation. That major substation, we started negotiation. Should it be removed? They said, no, it supplies our farm. It also supplies the port. It will cost 10 times the amount to remove it instead of doing a redesign to bypass it. So all I can say, without going into too much detail, is to ask for patience on the part of the Element local government people, on the part of Niger Delta people, and also on the part of Nigerians. We are alive to our responsibilities. These details you probably would not have had, but for this briefing, because I don't believe we should run government on the pages of newspapers. So we have gone very far, working with some consultants, including the Ministry of Works. We are redesigning the entire area. Because of the defects we have noticed, that area is now going to be 6 lanes, no longer 4 lanes. So it's going to be 6 lanes, and we are going to construct additional 2 bridges. In addition, we are also going to do 2 flyovers there because of the amount of traffic, if we are ever going to pass there without a problem. When you move slightly 7 kilometers from there, you get to a place they call Akpabio. At Akpabio, the state government has now dualized the road that goes from Government House area to terminate there. If we dualize our own road to go there, there will be major problem of traffic logjam. So we are now including a flyover, something that was not contemplated in 2006. And mind you, it wasn't part of the original contract. So outside that, work is going on, completion of sections 1 to 4. That is from Efurum, crisscrossing Bayelsa, rivers, and other states, all the way down to Akpabio, in our own area. Section 5, which I'm sure you would have asked me if I did not say, is the one that goes from Oron to Calabar. 13 kilometers on water, and the abutment is 5 kilometers on this side, 5 kilometers on the other side. The confusion is known to you that my predecessor in office attempted to, after the Federal Executive Council approved over 226 billion for the construction, my predecessor tried to undertake a redesign, an editor, to avoid one cemetery in Calabar they call Hawking Cemetery. The result was the amount galloped and went up to over 500 and something billion. So my personal view is that once we are through with this section 1 to 4, which we believe we should be through by next year, we should go back to that first proposal and then plead with the people of Calabar that it's good to remember the ancestors. But even the ancestors know that with the population explosion in the world, that some of their dwelling places will have to be touched. So about 10.4 billion of funds for capital projects of the ministry for 2021, out of the envelope we had, we decided to appropriate to the East-West Road. So we suspended over 300 small projects in the ministry, because I believe that that's a key legacy for all Nigerians. And since this president is very interested in leaving legacies behind, we look at almost every project that is doing today were projects that were started either 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and all that. But he came back and looked at what would be, which of those things would be for the benefit of Nigerians, either in the electricity sector, like the Mambila, or you look at it from the bridge sector, like the second Niger bridge. Those are things that were that were on the drawing board. I do remember many years back when I was a governor, and then the Niger Delta youth started breaking pipelines, and I said, why? Why will you go into this kind of thing? It's criminality. And they said no, that from 1970 or thereabout, the government kept promising them that all the plans they have for the development of the region were in the pipeline. So after waiting for over 30 years, they decided to break the pipelines in order to bring out the plans. So I think this president doesn't want to wait for anybody to tell him that something has to be broken before he actualizes the promises of past administrations. And for this, I thought you would clap for him. Honestly, he has done very well. So the East-West Road is one of them. So we've committed over 10 billion of money we could have used to complete other projects towards it. And to the glory of God, about 7.4 billion has already been paid, and then we have disbursed to contractors, and they're all on site. Then, additional funding of about 35 billion is expected from the Ministry of Finance, and of course, we also brought up an ingenious way that some of those new constructions, like the flyovers and the bridges, could be handled by the NDDC. Because I happen to supervise the NDDC, and unfortunately, after 20 years of existence, I've not seen 5 kilometers of dualized road done by NDDC. But I've seen over 2-3 trillion spent by NDDC, but I haven't seen the trillion projects on the ground. And I've also not been able to see major thing that has touched the life of the people so far. But we are still searching. That's why we are still searching. I'm sure we'll find where some of those monies went into, and then where those projects are hidden. So long as in the Niger Delta, we're going to find them so that we can justify the sum so far spent. So we suggested that the NDDC should also come in and then budget the sum of 35 billion in 2020 budget and 2021 budget specifically for those new infrastructure that we are putting on that East-West Road, because those ones were not even contemplated both in 2006 and in 2014, and we are committed to doing that. So in conclusion, we want also to appeal to Mr. President, and we've already done that by letter, that whatever money would have remained to enable us join to complete that road by next year for him to commission, we should be included in the 2021 Sukuk funds. And so that application I've submitted through the Office of the Chief of Staff. And the amount we are looking for is not much. I think we're looking for about 75 billion to add. So as you are seeing it here, a lot of work has been done. Some areas that we had already completed, we have started seeing wear and tear, and we are looking at almost about 41 bridges. If you leave the Ogoni area and you are going towards Akwa Ibom, you see the Deck Empire done at the Korobasi end. If you also move straight towards Eket area, you will notice the bypass, 9 kilometers. A decent pace of work is ongoing. So we want people to be patient, to trust us that we will deliver. And it's not going to be through the normal processes of budgeting, because the federal government has a lot of competing interests when it comes to resources. For instance, what was officially budgeted for 2021 is about 10 billion. That cannot undertake the kind of ideas we have that we must finish that road and bring the 15 years of harrowing experiences of the people of Niger Delta to an end. We have also in the ministry undertaken a lot of interstate projects. Even as I speak now, we are doing about 13 interstate roads. And then those are well listed there on the slides for you to see. We have over 109 of intra-state roads. That is within the states. We are also intervening. And this is where the fault of the ministry is. We need to go into some states in Niger Delta, particularly those states that are ruled by opposition, and commission those intrastate roads that we are doing for them, which I'm sure the state governments are claiming. so they will know that those things are also done by President Muhammadu Buhari for the people of Niger Delta region. And we are looking at over 109 of them right inside there. Oh, okay. So you can see in Abia State we are doing about 4, in Abia about 4, Kwame about 9, Bayelsa about 5, Cross River alone we are doing about 32. What happened? So in Delta, maybe they had very bad roads. In Delta, we have about 14. In Edo, we are doing about 18. In Imo State, about 11. Ondo, maybe the Minister of State is from there. We are doing about 14. And Rivers already, even though we are putting 2, but I believe it's far more than that because I've seen where they did payment of intrastate routes in Rivers State, so many of them. But if 2 are ready for me to commission now, I'll be very glad to just walk in the commission. These ones are all finished anyway. So this is about 109 undertaken by the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs. It's just a way of... then, of course, we're involved also in shoreline and jetty construction. We are doing about 9 jetties at the moment. And one is being constructed in Nembe, in Bayelsa State, to improve water transportation. And in the area of social infrastructure, we are doing a lot of electrification projects, 43 different categories of electrification projects at various stages. And then, of course, in the area of housing, the ministry has constructed over 500 housing units in the region. And the allocations, some of the allocations have already been approved by Mr. President. And we have handed over to beneficiaries who are very excited. And I must thank Mr. President at this stage that in the past, whenever the ministry finished any housing project, people were made to pay a sundry sum of 250,000 naira. But when I came in, I said, since it's for social programs such as Bakassi returnees and all that, there was no need for 250,000 because that can be a problem for some families. So Mr. President graciously agreed that it must be treated as a humanitarian gesture and then and ordered that they should be given free to the beneficiaries. And so we have done that. So the housing projects, you can see, like here we have 40 units of 2 and 3 bedrooms, bungalows at Igrikan, a new Bakassi in Akpabio government area. The people standing in front cannot believe their eyes because they are the beneficiaries. So long after I left the place, they were still on the road. You can see what is happening there. So we thank this administration for that. Then, in the area of environment, 15.6 kilometers all-season navigable waterways are being canalized. 7.4 hectares of eroded land being reclaimed. So we also undertake land reclamation. So outside what you hear about the going cleanup, the ministry is also impacting on the lives of the people through land reclamation. We have done about 130 hectares of degraded ecosystem rehabilitated through enriching the environment through afforestation. You can see completed section of rehabilitated ecosystem in Ikweben, local government area of Edo State. That is a product of the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs and many other places. We'll let you have the documents, but the slides are there for you to see, because sometimes seeing the picture itself also helps you. It's not just enough to visualize. We have consulted housing units at Otueke in Bayelsa State, but the entirety have been handed over to the Federal University of Otueke with the approval of Mr. President. The one at Agada, I hope you're not from, maybe it's your place, it might be your village. The one at Agadagbo in Esedo local government area in Ondo State. We have got the approval of Mr. President to hand it over to the state government. I think they want to give it to the Federal Polytechnic. Ile Uji. I hope I don't murder the names. And then also we have others completed. Try and show some of the pictures. Okay, look at them there. We have others completed at Ibno, in Akwa Ibom, Ohaji Bema, in Imo State, and then these are all practically completed. In fact, the one in Imo State, I think they even done the internal roads. So this, please go back to it. I'm sure the intention here is not the one you are seeing must have been the ones planned by the ministry as skill acquisition centers at the beginning. But when I went to visit the places, I was shocked. We just needed to do little touches to complete them. So we've completed many of them. And then there are 38 structures. They have a hostel for 500 students, girls. They have hostel for 500 boys. And they also have facilities for football, sporting, and all that. But the one that impressed me the most was facilities for underwater training. That is underwater welding training facilities in those places. And I think with Train 7 coming, those are the kind of things that we need in the Niger Delta region. It's actually supposed to impact skills on our children, and those things are ready. So I think in partnership with the IOCs and other donor agencies, we can actually do in-country training and save a lot of foreign exchange. So the one in Ibno, we are not giving it out to any government, local or state. We intend to use it because it's very close to the mobile facility. And I think if the oil companies are encouraged, they can use it as a major training center. It has also quarters for the lecturers who are going to be teaching the children and all that. These are some of the things being done by the President in the Niger Delta region, of course, together with other water projects. In agro-processing plants, we have completed about 27 of them, and we have handed them over. I took a trip around to hand over some of them to the communities, and I hope they took my advice that these projects are not done for fancy. Neither are they done for the government to be praised. They are done for their benefits, so they should take ownership, because that has always been the problem in the past. You come from the federal government, you go and impact on the community, and nobody owns it. And before you know what is happening, the place turns into a kidnapping den. So I told the communities, take ownership, not just take ownership, protect it, because it's for your benefit. Nobody is coming to charge money. So my colleague will probably mention one or two things on the areas of training. But to date, we have been able to train about 3,622 children of Niger Delta in different areas of agriculture. And of course, they were given starter packs and some stipends for commencement of their work as capital. Additional 2,049 women, which also include youthful women, have also been trained at the vulnerables in various fields of agriculture. at least they agreed to be trained. I hope they did not agree to be trained just because of the stipends, because sometimes you hear the word share the money instead of give me skill. But I think this is essential. We will continue to make a little contribution based on the available resources in that area. But Mr. President is impacting through the ministry. And these things are not things that are allowed because he is pro-poor and is a grassroots person. So he's more interested in the grassroots. That's why he has taken interest in what the ministry is doing. And we are very determined to make sure that we make our own impact in the society, in the Niger Delta region. So ladies and gentlemen, in terms of policy initiatives since our assumption of office in August 2019, with the Ministry of Niger Delta first, is trying to harmonize the two existing master plans that we met on ground. We have the Niger Delta Action Plan, and then you have the NDDC's Regional Development Master Plan. So we are trying to harmonize the two plans into one, since it's meant for the region, to ensure for effectiveness and better coordination. Then we developed what we call Strategic Implementation Work Plan, SIWP, which has been approved by the Federal Executive Council. Now this plan, approved by FEC in March 2021, has its own e-portal and is accessible at www.siwp.ng. This will result in joint accountability, elimination of projects duplication, wastages of scarce resources, as well as preventing abandonment of projects in the region. The intention is that at the touch of a button, the oil company, whether it is major or not, the ministry that wishes to put a project in an area will be able to know what is already done there. So we invite even the state governments to also key their projects in. It will help us to identify, if you want to go to Ahoda and give them maybe water with water treatment plant, once you check and you find out that that had already been done by Shell, then you have to ask the community what else do you want. And so it's a major innovation that we can sit here, instead of just throwing projects at people and they are not useful to them, we want to make sure that the people are carried along and that it will be based on needs analysis. And then this SIWP will assist us to know, even when you are not talking to anybody. So, just to conclude, we have been able to conclude, accomplish a lot of projects in the NDDC, even when we have not yet given out contracts. The reason is that I gave a deadline to contractors that we were coming in to do the forensic audit as ordered by Mr. President and requested for by the governors of the 9 states that make up the Niger Delta Development Commission. And therefore, you have time to move in and complete your projects. As a date, we have almost 77 projects completed. In fact, as at the last count, at least 74 of them happen to be road projects. I thank those who were reasonable enough to do so, because some just wrote to me, and maybe some wrote to me that they've completed 15. There's one that said 19, but I don't think the 19 belonged to him alone. I'm sure some members of his family also had. And the jobs were given to them in 2004, 2003, 2011, 2010. I'm not saying that monies were paid. I haven't looked at the record, but the major thing is that they didn't ask us for money. They just completed them and wrote to me that it is time for us to come and commission them. Then there was the sister to NDDC, Column Padek, Oil Mineral Producing Areas Commission, that was headed by one of our revered Niger Deltans, Chief A.K. Hoffel. So in 1995, 96, 94, they started a 13-story edifice that was meant to house the Niger Delta Development Commission. When I came in as a minister in August, in September I went to go and look at the place. You can see there. And I went there, I was shocked. Grass, water, everything. I went with my brother then, the former Minister of State, my brother Keyamo. But the interesting thing is not that I went there. It is what the workers there told me, that I just came from home to open the place for me to see. That no managing director of NDDC, since it was created, had ever been there. And you can know why, because NDDC was like stock exchange and an ATM. So if you're dealing with stocks, you don't have to go to the market, you don't have to go outside, just stay in the office and with your computer and then and share the stocks. Oh, sorry, I'm purchasing the stocks. So I was surprised. They said, "You are the first minister that has ever been here." No, so nobody had been there. So when I looked at the place, I said, we must complete this. So who owns number 167 Aba Road? They said, oh, it's now owned by the state government. Oh, donated to you free. He said, no, that we are paying 300 million a year as rent. In fact, the next one is you. I said, okay. But that is not the story. The story is not the rent. They can afford it. 300 million a year. And then they've kept their headquarters for 25 years without going near it. It was easier to pay the money. The story is that for almost 10 to 12 years, they needed about 26 million to connect electricity from the national grid into that building at 167 Aba Road, and they did not do it. But on a daily basis, they were doing water hyacinth and distributing for 900 million, 800 million, 700 million, 600 million. But no money. They couldn't afford up to 30 million to connect. So they were running on diesel. And so there were sets of contractors they called diesel contractors. When those ones enter there, you know that there's likely to be blackout for the whole week unless they are given their papers. Anyway, so all those things were brought to an end. Mr. President graciously gave us the impetus to declare that they must move into that building. So to the glory of God, they're working from that building today. That has been completed. And we also ensured we added additional 4 stories. If somebody can show it, which will house a clinic. And also, I think it's, if you look at the other one, it's towards the back. It will house a clinic. It will house a center, a civic center. And then you will also house restaurants and a banking facility and a hospital. These ones are going to be private sector. That people, they will rent those floors, partition them and use them, and then pay rent. So at least it will also be a source of revenue to NDDC. So we have also been able to, outside many other projects that are completed, there's one that we have to commission very soon, and that is the SPU quarters. We have about 64 flats ready now with an armory and a lot of ancillary facilities, which NDDC intended to donate for security operations in the Niger Delta Region. It's ready for commissioning. So as soon as Mr. President is opportune, we will invite him to commission that, even if virtually. But it's a beautiful place. We have completed it. We have done the internal roads, and everything is going fine. So the other issue is the forensic audit of the NDDC. The exercise has also been completed. And Mr. President is going to give us a date where the Chief of Staff, myself, and others will formally, with the forensic auditors, my brother, the Minister of State, and present formally to him. So we thought it was going to happen today, but from the movements, it looks like he has major engagements today. So it's not a problem, but just for you to note that that exercise has been completed as we promised, and we have delivered. What are the problems and challenges of the ministry? The first is inadequate funding. I think the ministry started with about 100 billion in 2008, But because of the system of paying IPCs, after they paid the 15%, I think what was left at the end of the year was returned. And so maybe the Minister of Finance at that time reasoned that they did not have the capacity to spend money. No, they have the capacity. The problems of Niger Delta, including the terrain, is such that 100 billion, 200 billion, 300 billion, if you give it to the ministry, will impact on the lives of the people. The problems are on ground. And then we also have the capacity to make sure that we tackle those problems. So we will be pleading for additional funding for the Ministry of Niger Delta. By 2019, when I came in, what I saw on ground was 35 billion, very drastically reduced. But of course, the economic downturn came, and then by 2020, it was reduced to about 19 billion. And 2021, we have just about 24 billion. And it's even from this 24 billion that we are dedicating 10-point-something billion to East-West Road because of the economic importance of the road and the fact that this administration should be the last administration that should bother about the section 1 to 4 of the East-West Road because it's taking quite 15 years. So, ladies and gentlemen, just a short presentation on what the ministry has been doing. I'll be available for any question you wish to ask. But in conclusion, I want to thank the President for giving us the opportunity to assist him and his administration to make the Niger Delta region the safest in the country today. So I think there are three major issues confronting us as a people, which will form the plank of future elections in the country. The first issue is that of insecurity. The second issue is that of economy, impacted adversely by COVID-19. And of course, the third issue is the issue of man-made creation, which is the issue of unity, which actually is non-negotiable. Nigeria remains one, united and indivisible nation. So people who are going around sponsoring youths and then arranging bullion vans to share money to them, arranging buses to carry food to them, to block roads and disturb economic activities, should desist from it. It will go nowhere. But no amount of threat will make us to lose focus on the unity of this country. We believe strongly in that. And I thank the people of the Niger Delta region, particularly the South-South region, for making a vow, together with their governors, that they will never believe in secessionist shouts here and there. We remain one with Nigeria, and together we shall grow. Thank you, gentlemen.
Minister, my name is Dr. Anule Emmanuel. I write for AFP. Honourable Minister, as Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, you are aware that there are concerns on 3% host community fund provided in the PIA as assented to by the President. Are you aware how these funds will be disbursed, and what specifically are you doing, your ministry, to assuage feelings considering the concerns about this particular fund? What particular action are you taking at the moment to assuage the feelings of the people of Niger Delta so that we don't experience yet another agitation? Thank you.
My name is Faisal. I write for Reuters. Honorable Minister, how will the just signed PIA impact the Niger Delta? 2, are there chances that there may be some arrests in the Niger Delta due to the anger being expressed by people in the region over the 3% share?
Please, don't forget our rules. No dumb barrel questions.
Good morning, Honorable Minister. My name is Dr. Leon Usigwe of the Nigerian Tribune. In your briefs, you said you have executed about 109 projects in the South-South. And out of these, opposition governors are claiming ownership of some of them. Can you just be a little specific for the sake of record keeping, sir? How many of these projects have been claimed by opposition governors? In what states? And what have you done to correct the impression? Thank you.
Honorable Minister, sir. My name is Yemi Adebayo from AIT. My question is on the forensic audit you talked about, sir. We've asked a series of reports like this that after the completion it will be submitted to the President, and thereafter you will not hear anything about this such report again. What step are you going to take in this regard to ensure that after this report is submitted to the President, it will also go as far as ensuring that some of the recommendations by these forensic auditors will be carried out? Thank you.
I should off it? Okay, I thought I should off my mic. So let me on a very serious note start with the last, the third question by Tribune. That is why it's good to concentrate when you go to any event. You said that that I said that opposition governors are claiming projects of the Ministry of Niger Delta. That is not correct. Opposition governors are not claiming projects of the Ministry of Niger Delta. All I said was that we have completed about 109 intra-city roads in Niger Delta, and it's important for us to begin to commission them so that the indigenes of those areas may not mistake them as state projects. So in other words, No, no, you see, when you are talking, you listen so that way, what we are doing now is elucidation. If you were very clear, you would not have asked the question. It's because you had doubt about what you heard. That's why you asked the question. So, and because you had doubt about what you heard, that is why, that is why I'm now also explaining to you. Because I don't want us to leave here after the notable job done by the president. What you will see will be headline: opposition governors claim project in the Ministry of Niger Delta. That's not correct. We don't even want anybody, whether local government or state, to claim any of the projects. So we'll go. The first step is that we have to begin to commission most of those intra-city roads. If we don't commission them, then people will not know that they were done by the Ministry of Niger Delta. So my speech was saying that those things have to be done before people start claiming them. So it is not that they have claimed them. So I just mentioned that we have completed 109 of those intra-city roads, which we must commission to avoid ambiguity. So I haven't seen one that has been claimed by any of the governors yet. But if you leave them, in future, it might not be this set of governors, in future others could come and claim them. And then of course you know that NDDC used to claim even state projects. And I understand even state governments also used to claim NDDC projects, because they will go and do duplication. The government will give one contract for the same road, the NDDC will give contract for the same road, so the two contractors, one will put his signboard and actually does the job, the other one will come in the night, move that signboard and put it and actually collect the money. You know, so both sides will pay for it, the state government will pay for it, then the NDDC will pay for it. We want to stop all those things. That's why we developed this plan, so that at the touch of the button, you will know which area has been touched, what has been done, and all that, and then you know where to cite your next project. So I hope Tribune, but Tribune, you know, it's clear. You now understand. You know, you gave me an award as Man of the Year when I was a governor. So as your brother and your friend and your Man of the Year, you cannot. And then, as you know, on a not so serious note, you know, one of the problems I have with press. That's why you don't normally see me like this, unless I'm mandated by Shino to appear. You see, the Nigerian press, right from the days of the Nigerian pilot, the West African pilot, remember? Was it West African pilot? The press was created in a country to fight colonial masters, so that they can forget our country and give us independence. So they fought the government very well, and I congratulate you. But eventually they gave us independence. But many years after independence, the press, not you people, so the press is still fighting. The press is still fighting government. The press is still fighting government, not knowing that the colonial masters have gone. So breaking news should not break society. So that's why I'm a friend of Tribune. So breaking news should not break the society. So I hope that is clear now. Thank you. So the press must change a bit of attitude, and then cooperate and collaborate with government and report things that will move the society forward instead of breaking the society, because those colonial masters have since gone. And so we must change our attitude. So that's one. Then from AFP, you had concern about the PIB and the percentage for the host communities, and how you hope that whether this will assuage the feelings of the people. Honestly speaking, the problem is not the percentage, neither is the problem the money, but the problem is how the money will be, utilized judiciously and at the same time in a way where there is no acrimony. I don't want money to break the societies, to cause communal clashes. So I believe strongly as a ministry that being also responsible for the peace of the region, that will take interest in how certain definitions are met as to who is the host community, who are those that should manage the funds. The law would have provided, but at the same time, human beings must also assist to interpret the law in such a way that there is no acrimony. And then, whether I'm happy, I must say that I thank President Muhammadu Buhari, because this PIB has been again on the drawing board, and we did not need to wait for them to break the board, or if it was in the pipeline, to break the pipeline to bring out the PIB. He has signed it, so it's no longer PIB, it's now PIA, Petroleum Industry Act, to the glory of God, and the magnanimity of Mr. President. So the PIA, when implemented, is going to assuage the feelings of the people of the host communities, because they never had 0.5% since 1956, when oil was discovered in a library. So that's why I said it's not the percentage that is the issue. Some communities could not even do solar-powered toilets. Some communities are not drinking water, even if it meant buying water tankers and supplying them free to the communities because of the fact that they have oil. And the oil exploration and exploitation had destroyed their water system. But now with this, they will be able to do certain things for themselves without waiting for the IOCs, oil companies, local governments or state governments to do it for them. So my prayer is that they will see this as a major step. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step. So people are arguing about percentages. I'm not interested in that. We'll manage this 3%. But the major thing is to use it well. Because even the small percentages that used to come to NDDC, they did not utilize it well. I believe the communities, the host communities, will list out their problems, come together in unity, and justify this action of Mr. President and this action of Nigerians. So I thank the National Assembly for the passage of this bill, long awaited for decades. And I thank the President for being the first President to show compassion to the host communities directly. This one is going directly to them. So we will help them. We will do a lot of sensitization from the ministry. We will visit them. When we look at the bill and know the composition of those who should be in charge of the money, we'll also make our input. And it should be mostly project-based. It shouldn't be like a normal contract because they don't have the capacity to do normal contract. It should be almost like direct labor, because it should also, except where they are doing a project that requires a special skill, so that it will also impact on the pockets of the indigenous in those host communities. Major step in the right direction, a major leap forward. There will be nobody in Niger Delta is going to start doing agitation, because some of these things are politically motivated, and some politicians want to make a point. I was in the Senate. Sometimes when things are being argued, somebody will take a position, then suddenly he sees that the majority is on the other side, he will jump up and correct himself. So I think today, majority of Niger Deltans are very happy that at least the government has started to look at the host communities directly, which is different from the derivation that goes through the state governments for major projects. These ones will touch their lives directly. And I think they will do well. I know some communities will do well. I also know some communities will fight, but of course it's expected. Most of those things will be settled. But it means that the ministry has a lot of work to do. I didn't have much input into the final PIB. I had input when I was a senator, but if I had input, I would have said they should put it under the Minister of Niger Delta, so that we'll manage it for the host communities. And there would have been no problem, because we are close to the grassroots, and we love the people, and we are also pro-poor. So maybe the next amendment may put it directly under us, and then we'll take care of that. I don't know what you think. Ashina, what do you think? No, but I'm not insisting. The law has already been passed, so the communities will manage their funds, but so that they will not say it's government that is managing it for them. You know, they will manage their funds. But I'm saying that at least in terms of supervision of how the funds are managed, the ministry will, whether we are invited or not, whether the law allows it or not, we will make input into how the funds are managed by the communities. You know, it's under the minister, but you're talking about meeting the grassroots. Meeting the grassroots and having direct contact with the host communities. So on the forensic audit, this president is a no-nonsense president. There is no way he will receive the forensic audit and it will not be implemented. Already the implementation has, in a way, started. Things can no longer be the same in NDDC. We are also changing the organogram and the modus operandi of the NDDC. They were not actually operating within the laws. They were not, in most instances, they were not even following the Bureau of Public Procurement Act. Contracts were being given arbitrarily, and then sometimes a managing director, interim, will give contract above his income, above what the income of the NDDC would have been for the year. I know of one that gave out contracts above 1 trillion under 6 months, and his income for that year would have been 301 billion. And even then, that would have been the budget. And you know, budget is just an estimate. Maybe the actual collections probably would not have been up to 250 billion, but he was able to sign contracts above 1 trillion. And when I asked, why did you have to do this? It's almost like trying to create indebtedness in perpetuity. The man said that most of those things were done by the staff and his children. So we will use the outcome and the recommendations of the forensic auditors to change the modus operandi of the Niger Delta for good, so that whatever they do will impact more on the citizens of the Niger Delta region. They will be happier for it. Thank you.
The next and last 4 questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The Minister of State answer.
My brother, the Honorable Minister, our friends on the high table after my tears, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to comment briefly on PIB, which is now PIA. I was the chairman of the Senate committee that worked on PIB in the 8th Senate. And like my colleague said, this project of passing a law to run the affairs of this country started during the Obasanjo administration. And subsequent governments have come, have tried to pass this law, but have failed. That Mr. President has been able to do this, regardless of any minor flaws that people might have found in it, to me is commendable. It is easy to amend a law that is in existence, but when the PIB was not passed into law, what will you cry about? Now people can say 3% is small, but before there was nothing, like my colleague said. Let us start with the 3%, And when the society and government sees that something should be done about 3%, then that can go to the National Assembly for amendment. Just one topic out of the myriad of problems that were addressed by the PIB, the taxation, the flaring of gas, so many problems have been tackled by the PIB that is now PIA. I believe that that little thing should not really be anything serious to now make us to condemn something that Mr. President and the National Assembly had toiled, to achieve for Nigeria. Thank you.
Last question.
Bolaji.
Bolaji, please, on your last. I'm going to be the last. I don't think any other person else.
Good morning, sir. L'Oreal Meske from Channels TV. We always hear about the organic cleanup that is ongoing. For several years right now. We don't have a hold of what stage cleanup has gone to. Can you just shed light on that?
Good morning. My name is Akpabio from Classic FM and the Beta Abuja. I was to really commend you as I must commend you so far for showing us something that has actually come out of Niger Delta, because I'm quite surprised having been saddled with so many allegations of misappropriation and non-execution of contracts in the past, and you can show us something. Going forward, how have you been able to tackle transparency when it comes to allocation of contracts? And can you shed more light on NDDC board of directors? Thank you.
Good morning, sir. My name is Juliana Tayo Obadoni of the Sun newspapers. While you were speaking, you mentioned that the NDC debt profile is in trillions. Can we know exactly what the debt profile is like, and then measures to put in place to pay back? Thank you.
Honorable Minister, I'm Bolaji and I write for the Nation newspaper. The East-West Road, I don't know how often you travel it, but for some of us who do, there are parts, especially the part of Delta, the likely Bayelsa, that you cannot call a road that was recently done. They have largely failed. I mean, you'll be galloping, traveling on them. Now that you're talking about a large part has been done and you just have a few more to go, I don't know whether the failed parts, mostly the Bayelsa part and part of Delta, are they going to be redone or they are done with them? That's about that. Then she asked something about the board. Sir, how soon is the new board of the NDDC going to be unveiled? Because it's bringing up a lot of agitation in the Niger Delta. Thank you very much.
That was my question. The board's part is my question.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me start from the Ogoni cleanup. A lot of progress has been made because I'm on the governing board of the Ogoni cleanup with my brother, the Honorable Minister of Environment. So far, 21 sites are almost completed, and about 36 new sites are in the process of being awarded. New contracts are going to be awarded for another 36 sites. You know, they are being done in segments. So serious progress has been made by this administration, and with the cooperation of the donor agencies, the partners, particularly share. So that one is ongoing. But you know, the devastation was huge, and it needs time and it needs patience and it needs cooperation of the people for the serious remediation to be done. And then on Classic FM, you said for the first time that can any good thing come from Nazareth? And you are now hearing good news from Niger Delta. You've seen on the projector roads that are being finished by the ministry, housing units finished by the ministry, skill acquisition centers finished by the ministry and all that. That you didn't know good news can come from Niger Delta. Good news do come from Niger Delta. But I think the problem had always been maybe the bad news tended to overshadow the good news. When I was a governor, I had a lot of good news, to the point where we broke the Guinness Book of World Records in many places. And if you Google it, you will see the whole of West Africa knew my state. And a lot of good news came out of it, in the form of over 37 brand new bridges, many flyovers, international stadium, international airport, government house, all sorts of things, free education for all Nigerians resident in my state and all that, and thousands of classrooms built and all that. There were a lot of good news. In fact, at the time, people said the government was undertaking so much, where would they get the money to pay for those things? That is Niger Delta. And in the same vein, you are hearing again. It's not so much a problem that there is no good news in Niger Delta, but they come out in trickles. Some of the states are doing well in Niger Delta, even today. Some of the states are doing well, but the problem had been that the major interventionist agencies tended to have lost focus. That was the NDDC. And so people tended to judge the Niger Delta from the spectrum of NDDC. And that is why Mr. President wants to change. If there is one thing that will applaud him forever, is the fact that he was indeed able to change the mode of operations in the NDDC, to impact on the communities, to move the communities forward, and not to move the pockets of the staff and the managers of NDDC forward. So I think that's the situation. Then the son was talking about the debt profile of NDDC. I don't know whether the interim administrator is around, but I thought he ran away when he heard about the debt profile, because he was sitting somewhere there. As the interim administrator, please help us. Tell us your debt profile.
Well, the Honorable Minister, the son, I'm careful, because when you speak to the press, they will take you on by the numbers. You know, projects could be said to be work in progress. If I tell you that for now we have commitments in excess of 3 trillion, there will be no mistake at all. But what I will want to avoid is to give you a figure, and tomorrow those contractors go back to site and they come back with new IPCs, thereby increasing the volume. So give us time. With forensic audit, a lot has been put in place. Most people have gone back to sites, and we will soon come out with the total commitment. Thank you.
What the interim administrator said is even surprising. I thought it was below, but he said it's in excess of 3 trillion. But you need to know that is both contingent and real. Contingent liabilities may not necessarily be real liabilities. And that is why the forensic audit is important. The outcome will clarify a lot of those issues. Because I'm aware that about 500 to 600 billion jobs were given as emergency jobs to be concluded within 90 days. Way back in 2017, 2018, and all that. And people are still holding those papers. Over 2 years after, whereas by a fraction of time, as enshrined in the contract itself, those things ought not to be liabilities of the NDDC. Over 600 billion. So those things are going to be addressed. And by the time you minus that from whatever is said to be the debt of NDDC, it will go down drastically. And many are. So let's see, the forensic audit will address the entirety of all that. And then NDDC itself is also being owed over $4 billion by the international oil companies. Over $4 billion on remitted funds. So, of course, even the state governments, let me say the federal government is also being owed a little. Or the federal government is owing a little bit also of its own part that it should do to the NDDC. I believe that with this forensic audit, we will begin to offset some of those things, working closely with the Ministry of Finance tranches. So when you say whether there are plans to pay those debts, I said yes, indeed, there are plans to pay those debts. There are plans to pay those debts, and I believe that they will be cleared. I want to see a balance sheet of NDDC that is bankable, something you can take to Exim, for instance, and collect a major loan to build a factory or an industry to employ people, as part of what we must put in place, which is the post-amnesty initiative. Because we cannot have people on amnesty in perpetuity. It must come to an end one day. When it was conceptualized, I was a governor, so I knew it wasn't supposed to be forever. And so we have to plan for the post-amnesty era. And that means we must begin to build structures and infrastructure that can employ people and that give them something that they will earn a living far more than the stipends that they are being paid today under the amnesty program. Otherwise, you are preparing for adult delinquency in future, because these amounts were being paid to youth. And so the elders in future, as they are going to become elders soon, 10 years have gone by, they'll have children, they'll have more responsibilities and all that, so the stipends will not be enough for them. And so collectively, through the ministry and the NDDC, we must plan for post-amnesty initiative by engaging in things that can lead to meaningful employment and raise income. And that can only come when the NDDC has been cleaned up and has a balance sheet that is bankable. It's concluded. Is this correct?
Yes, the Niger Delta Ministry will help facilitate the effective participation of the communities using the provisions of the law to set up a trust. So that they don't misinterpret what you said. Just to explain what the ministry
Which one? Hello?
Let's listen as the minister makes a very important point.
So let me make one clarification, because education is important, no matter the age. For the PIA, that is the Petroleum Industry Act, the provision as it is for today is for the 3% to go to a trust fund, for the various communities. And then, of course, this trust fund, the trust will be composed of representatives of the various communities that are involved in the ownership or adjacent to the oil, in fact, those you call the host communities. Now, what will be the role of the Minister of Niger Delta so that we don't misunderstand it? The Minister of Niger Delta is very excited about the PIA. Like I said, since 1956, when oil was discovered in a library, we never had even a 0.1%. So this 3% is a major leap forward, and we must thank this president for his boldness in that regard. Our job will be to help to facilitate the effective participation of the host communities in that in implementing programs that are brought forward by the trust, the board of directors, or so of the trust fund, of the trustees. So we want the communities to actually. Okay, I'll give you an example. When you talk about trustees in a trust, in this government, not this particular government, I mean in this federal government, we brought up what we call the Sovereign Wealth Fund at the time. I was a governor then. And we had two representatives that came from one state. One of the representatives was already on the management. The second one was to come from one of the oil-bearing states in the south-south. But because the names were very similar, something Ekpe, somebody put in bracket Akpabio, and so he became executive director. And so they ended up having two people from one state, and the entire south-south had no single representation on the management of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. So when I came and I raised the issue, at that time they said, no, look at the paper here. Look at the name of your representative. We even took the person from your state. His name is Ekpe. But Ekpe is also a name that Abia people bear because of the closeness. So we ended up having two people from one state. And the entire South-South was all represented. I'm not complaining. I'm only saying that the Sovereign Wealth Fund is doing well. But in terms of representation, you understand? If the Minister of Niger Delta had been consulted, or had taken interest, I'm sure they would have corrected it. So our job will be to ensure that we work closely with the communities to make sure that the trust and the trustees are actually from those communities. I also saw during the military era where there was an announcement on national television that Gumwok from Akpabio said had been appointed executive director of one of the either PPMC or something. And I know that the entire Akpabio said there's no family called Gumwok. And by the time the dust settled, it turned out that Gumwok was from Benue Plateau State. At that time, it was one state, Benue Plateau. So when I say that the ministry would take keen interest in the implementation of the 3%, I'm only trying to suggest that we will not allow something to go wrong. We don't end up with trustees who are not from the host communities, and then the intention of the framers of this law would have been lost. Thank you.
Is there a question repeated?
Oh,
the board.
Somebody talked about the NDDC board.
Yes.
When a young girl looked through West African Intervention Council's past papers for about 9 years, there was no single question about John the Baptist. So the child crammed and read John the Baptist from beginning to the end. When the child entered the examination hall, she went straight because she said this will be a banker. After 9 years of no question in Bible studies on John the Baptist, there must be one this year. So she went quickly to look for John the Baptist. And the nearest question was trace the history trace the journey of Jesus Christ from Samaria to Judea. There was nothing about John the Baptist in the entire booklet. So confused, the child said, okay, who am I, a poor sinner, to comment on the life of our Lord Jesus Christ? Instead, I would rather prefer to comment on the life of the forerunner who came to prepare the way for the coming of Jesus Christ. John the Baptist was born in the city of Judea. I went on. So by the time the child finished, the child had finished over 10 booklets on John the Baptist, because that was the nearest question. And that was the forerunner to the coming of Jesus Christ, that we call in Islam, Isa. So if you ask me about composition of NDC board, who am I? a mere minister to comment on presidential appointees when my job is to implement whatever I'm directed by Mr. President. Thank you.
Okay, the nation. During his presentation, he actually said some parts of the East-West Road had gone bad. He already answered that question. Yes.
I think what you asked is whether there will be whether we'll go back to those that were done in 2006 and 2007 that have gone back. Is that not what you are saying?
Yes.
It's a good suggestion. You know, everything depends on funds, but I have it in mind already that there will be need for overlay. In fact, in most constructions, they normally give 7 years. Outside this country, maintenance of infrastructure, maintenance of roads, after a road has been constructed, they give a lifespan of 7 years. Then they undertake major overlay for the road to last. This one was done 2006, by 2010 or 12, over how many years? Over 14 years now. You understand? So you don't expect the road to be the same. So I think let's just complete the site that was not completed. I would suggest that there will be need for us to make provision in the budget to do an overlay and major repair on areas that were done in the past that could have gone bad after 14 or 15 years. Because the intention is to have a road, not for political not for political reasons, but to ensure that the economic life of the people changes. So I take your suggestion seriously. I noted it. I noted it.
No, that was not in the question earlier.
You go ahead.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we can explain that. International oil companies, they are expected to pay 3% of their budget annually to NDDC. That is their major income. But they have been defaulting for quite a long time. And efforts have been made to aggregate what they own and find a solution on how to get the money to NDDC. That is the composition of the $4 billion. All of them, all. Yes.
Thank you. Our friends in the media, let me say thank you to you. The minister has drawn so many allusions from the Bible, so let me join him. To remind us of that, the story of that man who organized a feast in the Bible, and he invited all his friends. But each one sent one excuse or the other. One said, I've just married a wife. One said, I've just bought a field. And then excuses like that, so nobody turned up. What did that man do? He told the servants, go to the roads, go to the fields. Anybody you see, compel them to come and eat at the feast. If this had been organized and you are now here, it would not have worked.
So we want to thank you for coming. Thank you so much. And we also believe that these things will be appropriately reported. I wanted to say positively reported, but appropriately is a better word. Just report the minister and his team appropriately. I believe that will be done.
Remember that colonial masters
and it says we should remember that colonial masters are gone. Thank you.
We're not in charge.
Let me thank the team that came with the minister, Alfred A. Abba, Director Planning, Research and Statistics, Sabo Adamu, Director Community Development and Education, Engineer Oyeniyi Sikiru Aziz, Director Infrastructure Development, Town Planner Olufemi Olorutola, Director Housing and Urban Development, Patricia Deworishe, Director Press. That's our own kinswoman. There are other overseeing deputy directors and other officials. We welcome all of you. Let me also thank members of the Presidential Communication Team who have put this together week after week. Like you heard in the beginning, this is the 19th edition, and I believe it has been very illuminating. So I thank all members of the Presidential Communication for their work week after week. At this side of the hall, let me thank our own Colonel Alaita from the Office of the Chief of Staff here. And then our friend and Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Dr. Babayo Ado, thank you. Then the Minister of State for Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Alasho Adura. It's a pleasure to receive you. To my right, Mr. Lalo Akonde is SSA to the President on Media and Publicity in the Office of the Vice President. And then the Interim Administrator of the NDDC, Mr. Effiong Akwa. Honorable Minister, it's always a pleasure to listen to you. We have heard of before Akpabio and after Akpabio. When you were governor. So we thank you now that when they talk about Niger Delta in future, they will say, was it before Akpabio or after Akpabio? So we thank you. I like what our sister from Channel said, that she didn't know that so much was going on in the Niger Delta. From Classic FM, that she didn't know that so much was going on in the Niger, in the ministry, and we are glad that we have had this illumination today. Thank you very much. We hope that when next we ask you to come, you will oblige us. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.